Yo, what is going on, guys? Comtois has just released a new developer's note in relation to the new 2A, and they've made adjustments to monster skilling as well when it comes to Second Awakening. So if you guys don't know, Second Awakening is a new area. Well, Dimension Hole is a new area where you can do Second Awakening of monsters. And they released a new one. So the new monster, guys, if you haven't seen this already, is a Griffon. So the Griffons are now the new 2A monsters. Looks like they're only releasing one this time. So it should be very interesting. Let's have a read through the patch. What it says is, with the Second Awakening, the monster transformed into a brave and majestic force. As you can see, Griffon is our new Second Awakening monster. Whenever the new Second Awakening monsters were updated to the game, a new dimension suitable for the concept of the Second Awakening monsters appeared together. But for the Second Awakening, Griffon, the monster will appear in the existing beast dimension. In Kazan is where it's going to appear. Now, many of you will be curious, Second Awakening skills of Griffon, so this is going to cover all the attributes. So, when we look at first one, Spectra. So, a lot of guys from back in the day would have had a Spectra built, mainly for like TOA hard and even for DB10 in some cases, because you used to deal damage based on enemy max HP and used to push back attack bar as well as apply attack speed slow. So, what have they done? So, Special Assault, they got rid of the HP consumption part, and it looks like for Backlash, they've also added in a component here which looks like the 50% attack bar reduction is still, 50% chance to reduce attack bar by 30% is still the case. But now instead of just decreasing attack speed, it also reduces attack power by 2 turns. I could see that being still useful if people were still using it in TOA hard. There just seems to be better uses for it. I could probably still see it being used as a boss killer for TOA hard 100, and potentially still in DB10 if you needed a max HP damage dealer. Although Sig is pretty good now, and same with Lin. So those are probably still your two go-to. Next one is the Water Griffon. So the main changes they've made here, having a quick scan through it, is Body Slam. So before Body Slam was just applying attack break and defense break for 2 turns. Now what it does, it still does that, but it also gives attack bar gives 30% attack bar for each harmful effect granted on the enemy target. So by doing second skill, it gives you 60% attack bar. Now Pursuit also got adjusted. So before it used to do damage based on attack speed and max HP. Now what it does is it also does increased damage by 15% for each harmful effect on the enemy. So let's say with the defense break and attack break before, let's say you hit 5,000, you are now going to be doing an extra 750, 5,750 damage. So that's an extra 750 damage on top of the 5,000. So that's essentially how it's going to work. It's a pretty good buff. It's pretty interesting. It should be used a bit more. I think with all these monsters coming out that are all about attack bar manipulation, this could be a pretty nice one. And, it's not just capped for the 2 debuffs that the water one does either. It could be dots on top of the enemy as well. So we could see that could be dealing quite a lot of HP because it does max HP. Oh, it's based on its own max HP damage. So probably not as much as if it was based on the enemy max HP. Bernard's the next one. So did they make anything big changes to Bernard here? So Snatch. The first skill for Bernard is being changed. It has a chance to reduce enemy attack bar by 15% with an 80% chance, and damage also increases based on attack speed, which is the same as what it used to be for Snatch. Now, that should be interesting. Subtle change. I think it's pretty cool. Body Slam now also does damage based on attack speed. So it's all speed scaling. They've obviously identified Bernard being one of the faster units. So, and they haven't changed the third skill, which is good to see. Because if they change the third skill, it could make a pretty big difference to Bernard. So that's pretty cool that they didn't touch that one. Light. The light one, based on the first skill, they've added a bit more text here. Attacks the enemy with the razor sharp claws and recovers HP of all allies by 30% of the inflicted damage. Wow. That's like a Cadiz first skill. Damage increases according to your attack speed. So it scales off speed. Gives you your allies 30% of the HP. 30% of the damage is HP. Second skill does damage proportional to the enemy's max HP and consumes 10% of the HP. So Special Assault as per normal has not been adjusted. Guardian Angel, which is the passive, previously used to increase resistance by 20%. And now it used to also decrease the damage by dark monsters by 50%. And what it does now is it also increases the damage it inflicts to dark monsters by 100%. So it doubles the damage onto dark monsters. Interesting unit. I think we might see some of this into RTA. Now, it may not be too good into Mihos, obviously, but it's still a very interesting concept where it's like a mini Cadiz. Dark Griffon, as you can see here, the first skill looks like it's exactly the same. Stuns when you crit, damage based on attack speed, body slam. There's a bit more here. It says damage is proportionate to your defense, so it's a defense scaling unit, as you can see, the dark type, and it in brackets says defense. And I think it's going to change to the second skill. Yes, it is. And then we see the passive has a bit more text to it. The change to it, by reading it, says your attack will always land as a critical hit against the target who has lower defense than yours. So it's similar to like a Mina, but not quite, because it's depending on your defense. So if you have more defense than the enemy target, you will always land as a crit. Now that means you could build this unit to be very fast because it scales with attack speed. It does an armor break and an attack break with second skill, and you don't have to build it to have any crit rate, because if you make it high enough defense, you will always crit against the enemy, and you don't have to worry about that aspect. So it's gonna be a very interesting unit. It might be pretty hard to build because some units are built quite high on defense, but you could see this working to high HP targets. And yes, it recovers 20% of that damage inflicted to the enemy as HP as well. So it has a base defense increase of 50%, which alleviates the pressure of trying to build too much defense on it. But I believe that only increases the base defense by 50%, not total defense that you end up getting on the unit. So should be a very interesting one. Overall view of this, I feel like the water one's pretty nice. Bernard change is pretty nice for Arena, but probably won't see too many of that, depending on the base stat changes. I'd like the sounds of the fire one. To be honest, I really like the light one. I think I'm gonna probably try build the light one and see how that goes. But it might be very hard to use at this point in time. We'll have to have a look into it and see. It seems like they all got some sort of use. Even Dark is pretty good. I feel like all around they're all pretty solid. Pretty good 2A option. Making them all a bit more useful. Baby Cadiz and the Light Griffon. Dark one is a defense scaling speed scaling, defense scaling unit as well. That has permanent stun if it has higher defense now. And does not require crit rate to be built. So it could be pretty powerful. Bernard with the speed scaling damage. The water one having damage scaling of debuffs as well as applying debuffs and still based on speed. Also having the attack bar manipulation now on it, giving itself more attack bar. And then Spectra having a bit more use as well, being able to attack break units. I think Spectra may be the better one in PvE, but I feel like they're all kind of useful now. So let's see what the rest of the text says in this. Now that you've seen the skills, aren't you excited to second awaken your Griffon? Each attribute has its own characteristics, but they're saying that they reckon the Water Griffon is a big change. Khan can now use Body Slam skill to grant harmful effects and inflict big damage by himself. The Second Awakening will allow summoners to compose decks that include Khan and try out in various situations. So it's like they're favouring Khan a little bit here. I don't know if it might be the best one. I feel like there's a few. I feel like the Dark one's gonna have a big impact on RTA, just because it can CC with skill 1. And it's pretty easy to build now, where you can focus more on the effective HP, focusing on defense rather than focusing on crit rate. So it makes it a bit easier to build, and it's speed scaling as well. So that's what I'm kind of leaning towards. So as you saw from this notes title, we've been working to improve all Second Awakening monsters. So now this one I had a quick skim through earlier. It says skill levels are now going to be changed. So what they're talking about is the actual skill ups required to skill up the 2A monsters. So they've identified here, it says with the limit of dimensional energy and other factors, we think that Second Awakening monster skill up process could be an obstacle for summoners utilizing the Second Awakening monsters in their gameplays. So they're going to try and make a solution here. They're going to make it easier to skill up the monsters, and if you already max skilled those monsters, you'll actually be given Devilmons as a refunded item for those guys that actually went through the effort and skilled up those monsters past the point that they are now. So I believe this improvement will relieve the burden of upgrading the Second Awakening monsters and increase the satisfaction of skill ups. So they've given an example of fairies in here. So I'm going to use the water one. Seems like people have built the water one a lot. So previously we needed a total of 2 for the first, 4 for the fourth, 2 for the 3rd skill. So it's a total of 8 Devilmon. What we need now is we only need a total of 5. So you need a total of 5 2As or 8 2As. 3 2As is 330 energy. So you're saving 330 energy that you can use on something else. So they've reduced the total amount. Means it's easier to skill up. If you were doing it the free-to-play path, which is to do the 2As again and again and again, which is what I did to do my Lucia and my Ralph, so I'm actually excited to get my Devilmons back. But yeah, I think that's a very good change. All they've done here, by the looks of it, is they've combined the leveling aspects. So as you can see, the total effect is, I believe, is still the same as you go through. Damage is still like 15% or 10% or whatever. And now it's like talking about attack bar recovery, for example, is now 20% for level 4 rather than splitting it between level 3 and level 5. So that's going to be pretty cool. So now they're just talking about that process, which is pretty much what I just went through. And that's about it. So guys, let me know what you think of this 2A monster, the Griffons, in the comment section below. If you guys liked my quick analysis over this, please let me know. If you liked the video, please hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content in the future. Otherwise, this is me signing out. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care and good night.